There are guitars that look beautiful. There are guitars that look expensive. And then there are guitars that look like weapons meant to kill. Almost like they've been through a war. Mick Mars? Well, he understood the third kind.
Yeah, you're my guitar story, and we're still being written one by one.
So long before the lights of the Sunset Strip made Motley Crue one of the most notorious bands in rock, Mars was already developing a sound that didn't depend on speed or technical showmanship. His weapon was the riff. The heavy, the ugly, blues-soaked, and brutally effective riff. When Motley Crue exploded out of Los Angeles in the early 1980s, the guitar world was changing fast. Virtuosos were becoming rock stars, and players were chasing faster scales, bigger techniques, and increasingly elaborate instruments. Mick Mars went another direction. He made the guitar sound dangerous. His instruments were often heavily modified, customized, and worn-looking, but that was never the point. Mick Mars wasn't interested in making a guitar precious. He wanted an instrument that worked for him, one that could survive the volume, the stage, and the enormous riffs he threw at it night after night. And that became part of the mystery surrounding his guitars. Where did the famous instruments come from? Which ones were actually used on recordings? Which were built, modified, rebuilt, or replaced? And how much of what we think we know about Mick Mars guitars is documented history, and how much is rock mythology? Because with Mars, the guitars was never simply an instrument. It was part of the character. The battered finish, the strange modifications, the enormous sound, and behind all of it was a guitarist who never needed to prove how many notes he could play. He only needed to make the right one hit hard enough. That was Mick Mars. And sometimes the most unforgettable guitar stories begin with an instrument that looks like it should have been thrown away years ago. The Warlock. Then, there was the guitar that looked like it'd been designed by somebody who hated the idea of a normal guitar. The B.C. Rich Warlock. With its sharp, jagged body and unmistakably sinister silhouette. The Warlock looked less like a musical instrument and more like something that belonged in the hands of a comic book villain. B.C. Rich introduced the model in 1981, right as heavy metal was beginning to embrace guitars that were as visually outrageous as the music coming out of them. And Mick Mars got his hands on one. His white Warlock became particularly visible during the Shout at the Devil era, appearing in promotional material, and famously in the video for Looks That Kill. For a band building an image around leather, smoke, chains, and barely controlled chaos, the guitar looked almost too perfect. It fit the part. But there is where the story gets interesting. The Warlock may have looked like the perfect Mick Mars guitar, but apparently it wasn't. Mars later made it clear that he didn't much have affection for the pointy guitars of that period, saying they didn't really work for him. Other accounts also note that the weight of some of his earlier instruments became an issue as he moved toward lighter guitars. So the Warlock occupies a strange place in the Mars story. It became part of the image. Fans remember it, photographs preserve it. The silhouette became inseparable from early 80s version of Motley Crue. But the guitarist holding it wasn't necessarily in love with the instrument, and maybe that's what makes it so fascinating. This rock history is full of guitars that became legendary because their owners adored them. But this Warlock is a little bit different. It became legendary because Mick Mars looked absolutely right holding it. The guitar was screaming heavy metal before he even plugged it in. And when he finally did plug it in, the combination of that strange black and white stage spectacle, the enormous amplifiers, and those filthy Motley Crue riffs helped create one of the defining visual snapshots of the early hair metal era, the Warlock looked dangerous. Mick Mars sounded dangerous, and for a few years were a perfect match, even if the relationship wasn't destined to last. To see and read more about his gear, please visit equipboard.com, Mick Mars, and he is officially retired from touring, so no shows or dates near you, but you can always check out his music on YouTube. And as always, I thank you for watching.